How's it going, guys? Phil here from The Mindful Mover. Today I want to talk about a concept that we call gains with chains. So what are gains with chains? Gains with chains are basically just gains where you feel like you are chained to maintaining them. So to go over that, we're going to need to go into a little bit of a story here. Grab some popcorn. Okay, so years ago, I got into the movement culture and I was very into it. And one of the things that was popular in the movement culture was handstanding. And one of the things that was seen very highly in the movement culture was the one-arm handstand. So, since I was full-blown into it and really wanted to be seen as a dedicated practitioner, I was setting my sights on achieving that one-arm handstand. So, what happened there? Well, first, I had to work on developing the two-arm handstand. The two-arm handstand took me around 6 months to get pretty good, to go from 0 to 60 seconds consistently. After I achieved that, it was time for the one-arm handstand. I wish I had known how much time this project was going to take because, oh my goodness, it took a while. So the person I learned it from, if I remember correctly, he learned it in about 3 or 4 months. He did 30 to 60 sets of one-arm handstand work per day. So I thought, hey, I'll learn it that fast too by doing the same thing, working on about 30 to 60 sets per day. And do you think I did? If you answered no, you answered correctly. I did not learn the one-arm handstand in 3 to 4 months with that amount of work. In fact, it took me more like a year and a half to be able to perform a 10-second straddle one-arm handstand. It was a lot of work. Each day in that year and a half was about 2 to 3 hours of hand balancing work. And I did that most days. The only days I took off doing that 2 to 3 hours was when my wrist would hurt so bad that I couldn't continue. Now, after I got that 10-second straddle one-arm handstand, do you think that was enough? No. I wanted to take it even further. Why? Well, because I wanted to be a dedicated practitioner, and I went ahead and put in even more work into the one-arm handstand. I worked up to my peak of being able to perform a full, which is your feet together, one-arm handstand for about 9 seconds. That was the highest level of hand balancing performance I ever achieved. Did achieving that make me seem like a dedicated movement practitioner? Well, I don't think so. Especially considering that a while later, I was actually banned from the movement culture and all events. So obviously that didn't work. But the silver lining is that I worked really hard on the one-arm handstand and got to keep it, right? Wrong. I didn't even get to keep the gains. So when I stopped working on the one-arm handstand so much, I started to notice that it would begin to regress more and more. The less I worked on it, the less I could do. My hold times would go down. My ability to balance would go down. I was wobbling all over the place, and the amount of effort it took me to hold my holds would increase the more I would decrease my workload. It's basically like if I didn't put in enough time, I would just continue to get worse. What's terrible about that is that I had already put in all that time towards gaining the one-arm handstand, only to find out that if I don't continue to work on it, I'm going to lose it. Most of the time, when you work on a skill or a strength or something like that, if you gain it, you're like, oh, that's great. I know I can maintain it with less work. But this one, not so much. And that right there is the first time I experienced gains with chains. If I wanted to keep this one-arm handstand gain, then I was chained to working on it continually, week after week, hour and hour. So what happened with the one-arm handstand and my hand balancing practice in general? I stopped working on it as much. I actually stopped working on it at all. Recently, I tried doing a one-arm handstand again, just for fun, to see where I'm at, and you can see for yourself in this video here.
Not even close. That's so bad. Yeah, that's totally gone compared to like the earlier video.
So I found out basically with that whole long journey that after I got the one-arm handstand, taking like 1 or 2 weeks off was not acceptable if I wanted to keep my level of performance. On the other hand, I found that other things like strength training are way more easily maintainable. They are not really gains with chains, it's more like they're chained to you. As a personal example, I've taken up to 2 weeks off of training at times, and not only have I come back and maintained all my gains, I actually gained from one session to 2 weeks later the next session. It's awesome. It doesn't feel like you're chained to something because you don't have to dedicate daily time and effort to it like I had to with my one-arm handstand. If I had to make an analogy, the one-arm handstand would have been like having a pet puppy or kitten if you're a cat lover. You gotta feed it. You gotta take it out for walks. You gotta give it love, affection. You gotta give it those every single day, no matter how tired you are, no matter how exhausted you are, no matter what other things are going on in your life. You need to dedicate that time, otherwise bad things will happen. On the other hand, strength training is kind of like a pet rock. Once you've got it, you don't have to do too much to keep it. If you don't feed it, it'll be okay. If you don't give it too much love and affection, the pet rock will stay. The only thing you really need to do is get the pet rock and every now and then maybe turn it over, give it some sunlight, etc. It'll survive. Now that's just a personal experience and my own example of gains with chains. But gains with chains can basically apply to anything, any kind of gain. If you find something that you can gain, that you can maintain very easily, and you're not obligated to do it week in and week out, that right there is a gain without chains. That gain is chained to you. Those are awesome because, if for a week you don't feel like working on it, it's great. You're still fine. You'll keep it. You'll maintain it easily. Things like strength are chained very well to you. It takes a while to gain strength, but it also takes a while to lose strength. On the other hand, certain skills can sometimes be lost a little bit easier. If you don't spend the time to maintain them, they can start to deteriorate a little bit faster than something else like strength training. The key thing is for you to be informed. It's for you to be able to decide based on how much work you're going to have to put in to maintain those gains, which gains you actually want to chase after. So for example, if you can work on the planche twice a week and improve your planche gains, great. But if the next level requires something like 5 times per week, you might decide, that's not really for me. It's not about losing the gains, it's about how much work it's going to take you to maintain them. That right there is where the chains come in. Make sure that you don't accidentally pick up any gains with chains that you didn't mean to, like I experienced, and use that to get aboard the gain train. Woo woo.